On April 15th, Major League Baseball annually recognizes Jackie Robinson's life and legacy, celebrating the impact that he had on baseball and our country. Today, the Detroit Tigers are partnering with the nonprofit RISE, hosting a critical conversation to help educate and empower our Detroit community on how we can all play a role in advancing the values that Jackie Robinson fought for his entire life, including racial equity, social justice, and civic engagement. Joining the conversation from the Tigers are bench coach George Lombard, whose late mother, Posey Lombard, was a noted civil rights activist and associate of Dr. Martin Luther King, outfielder Niko Goodrum, whose many talents extend off the field, leading to numerous events to help those in need in Detroit and surrounding areas, and pitcher Matthew Boyd, who is not only the Tigers' opening day starter this year, but has also joined his wife Ashley in founding Kingdom Home in Uganda to house, raise, and educate girls who are victims or at risk of being victims of the sex trade. To lead our conversation, please welcome the CEO of RISE, Diahann Billings-Burford.
I'm so excited to be here today. Before we even begin, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the Tigers organization, the players, the coaches that are on this call today. And possibly, I don't want to make anybody feel unimportant, but possibly even more important, I'm excited about the student participation in what we're doing today. We're going to honor Jackie Robinson as the league does on April 15th, but we're going to do this today by having this really important conversation. You know, at RISE, we're a national not-for-profit. We educate and empower the sports community. And we think that education and that empowerment comes from folks sharing. So I'm excited about the three people who have joined me for this conversation. I hope you will learn from them. I plan to. I hope we will all feel empowered by them. We plan to. And I hope you'll feel empowered by the questions that the young people that join us today ask as well. They give me hope and keep me going. So with that, I'd love to jump right in. And again, today we kind of remember and recognize Jackie Robinson, a pioneer, an advocate, a survivor, a leader. And so I'd love to ask everyone on our panel today, what inspires you most about the life of Jackie Robinson that maybe impacts your own choices or your own leadership? And we can start with whomever. Is there anyone who wants to go first?
I'll jump in. I guess being the oldest on this on this Zoom call, but I think when we just think about making a difference and the difference, and I think about the impact that my mom had and then other people in this world. But as he mentioned, the importance that you have on other lives, and that's what Jackie stood for. And he wasn't just talking about it; he lived his life like that, and made a difference. And he was, beyond brave in times when it's much easier to come out and say things and do things now, but he was the first to do it, and to have other people follow in his footsteps, and just to really put his actions in play and make a difference in so many lives.
Yeah. Thank you for that, George. And I'm not sure you're the oldest. We might be neck and neck on that. We'll see. Niko or Matthew?
I guess I'll go. Being able to see that growing up, we weren't born, but seeing that growing up and what we learned in school and what our parents taught us, it gave you the courage to step out into this world and be who you are and stand for something. Stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So the difference that he made gave me the courage and confidence to carry that on, especially in the sport that we're in. I think it played a huge part, for me and George to be able to play the game, for George to still be coaching in this game and, to go about change. So it was a huge impact what he did. And like I said, it gave me the confidence to continue to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think kind of going off of what George said, that Jackie Robinson quote that's just forever stuck with me is, a life's not measured by what you do in it, but the impact you have on other people's lives. I might have butchered that a little bit, but the impact that he has for generations to come, not only in our game, but in our country, and doing it because he's called and whatnot. It's really kind of how my wife and I have kind of just moved in our own lives, whether that's to a nonprofit or whatever it is regardless of what other people may think about it, regardless of, I guess, the adversity that might be in the way of whatever might, be in it, just to move because we're called in it, knowing that we are called in it, knowing that it is the right thing to do. And that's what he had to endure daily. And, it's cool, man.
Yeah. Thank you all for that. And Matthew, I couldn't agree more. And Niko, you referenced, right, like you weren't alive, right, when he was playing. And I wasn't while he was playing, but, even for me, right, like he was an icon. He was a hero in my household. I noticed that both Niko and George are from Georgia, and my granddad is, but I was born and raised in Brooklyn. And for me growing up, it was, even though the Dodgers had already left Brooklyn, like this was my grandfather's icon, right? And so if baseball was on, it was on TV, it was on the radio. Even if he looked like he was sleeping, you tried to touch it, you were in trouble. And so back to that, like to have an impact. In some ways, he had an impact on my family because he was a ball player and because he broke color lines. But in some ways, like my granddad knew that he had written to presidents about racism, right? And so it's that ability to have impact on people you don't even know, almost on the other side of the country in a world far away. And so I really do want to thank you guys as we get into the student questions, because I think today you are doing that.
And Diahann, excuse me, to put things in perspective, he was born in Georgia. And I mean, there was a number of people that were lynched the year he was born to show you what he had to live through before he moved to California. I don't know. I think I saw a story on it. I don't think there was like 20 people lynched that year when he was born in Georgia. So it's unthinkable, some of the things that are happening and what he had to go through and think about.
Absolutely. Right. And it's that reality, right? Because my granddad, they're of the same age. Like for him, again, back to this impact that we all can have on other people. They came from that same reality, but to see someone come from that reality and get where Jackie Robinson got and still remember and try to take care of everyone else, right? What a legacy. So I want to get the students in. I want to give you guys a chance to be the impact. We know, right? And I think, George, you kind of framed it even better than I could have, that Jackie Robinson endured racism literally throughout his life. And we know that, unfortunately, we're still dealing, right, with racism. We've got some work to do to continue to make our country greater than it is right now. We have a question, our first student question from Auden, who's a freshman right at Rochester Adams High School in Rochester Hills.
Hello, my name is Adam Barghouti. I attend Rochester Adams High School and I'm 15 years old. The question I have today is, what personal experience or event made you first realize there's a problem regarding social injustice, racism, and racial inequity in this country?
My first experience with racism or seeing that it was a difference, and that a difference kind of in this country kind of mattered. That it was I was younger, the Olympics were coming through, and we were up the street from my house was up the street from where the torch was running through, and so we gathered our stuff up, drinks and everything, chairs, and we went down to the corner where this family-owned gas station was so we could see the torch. And so we put our chairs down, and we're sitting down. Then the owner comes out and said, "You guys can't sit here." And so as a young kid, I'm looking around like, well, there's people already sitting here, but the people didn't look like us. And so at that point, my dad gathered the stuff up. We went across the street to sit down so we could watch it. And so at that point, my dad explained what's going on and why that happened. Because as a kid, you're not understanding what's going on and why we can't sit on this side right here, just across the street. But that was my first experience of racism. And then, it sucks that, as a parent, that you had to explain to your kids what that is because of the color of the skin, that you can't sit in, on this part of the street. You have to go on the other side. So that was my first experience.
Wow. And I wasn't there, but I'm still sorry to hear it. Matthew?
I don't know, this isn't my first experience, but I guess impactful experience was last year after what happened to George Floyd. We had a conversation in our clubhouse, and man, we had, Niko spoke up, Cameron Maben, Lloyd McClendon, a couple of our teammates and coaches of color, and they talked about their experiences about what was going on in the world. And my eyes were open for the first time as going through just some things that were said that I never would have imagined. Like, that is something that's a daily thought. Talk about being pulled over by the cops, talk about different experiences when they were playing. It was just eye-opening to me. It made me feel horrible because it made me feel like I didn't know my teammates and friends, people that I considered people that, I played for and with, for 6-7 years, things that they had to go through on a daily basis that I never thought twice about. And I felt horrible that this is the country that we're living in. It's like shade was pulled off, a veil was pulled back and saying, man, this stuff still exists. And how naive am I? And it just opened my eyes to start learning more. And it's sickening, honestly. It's just sickening because there's a ways to go.
Yeah. We talk about these critical conversations, and I say the term quickly, but a lot of, I thank you both for sharing. But a lot of why we think there's such value in these conversations is we think diverse communities can only come together in truth, right? And really understanding one another's experiences. And if we don't take the time to intentionally share these experiences about race in this country, you could literally have people with completely different understandings of what's going on. And so I thank you both for sharing, because we think that's really critical, right, to our country moving forward. George, did you want to share about an experience?
Yeah, I'll go a little bit of a different direction with it, and just speak on an experience where I'm in Miami, where I live in Miami in the winter, and my buddy was just finishing a house, and it's one of these really expensive houses on the water, and we just got back at a neighbor's house, and I wanted to go see the house. I wanted to walk over and see it. It's in the middle of construction, so the house is open. You could walk right into it. And he goes, yeah, just run right over and take a look at it. And the first thing that enters my mind is like, I am not going over there. The first thing I did is ask his son, hey, why don't you go with me? And that's the way my mind thought, because I knew if I went over to that house and someone saw me walking through that house, that it was going to get a phone call. And but I just think of different experiences of how it impacts us and the way we're treated and the way you automatically jump to that thought process, which is not right. And that's why things need to be done.
Yeah. And in some ways, the sad thing is it's based in truth, right? We think about Ahmaud Arbery, and one of the first things that comes up is he was literally going to an abandoned building. And you're like, I'm not sure when that became punishable by death, but that's, that's the reality for some, unfortunately.
I thought that was before the Ahmaud Arbery scenario.
Yeah. Thank you all again. We have a second question, which I love, from Kirsten, who is a senior at Cass Tech in Detroit.
Have you ever had to be an ally to a teammate of color? If so, what would you do if you saw a teammate or a colleague getting treated poorly because of their skin color?
I think that it's something you got to just bring to the attention and say, this is wrong. You got to be outspoken. There's strength in numbers. And if someone feels that that they are being treated unfairly, that you got to be their ally in that, and you gotta speak out. I haven't had a situation really like per se like that, yet, but it would be something that communication in it all. And I think that's kind of, we're all from different cultures, all from different places, right? I think like so many different countries and cultures represented on our team. You know, it's over like 6 or something in terms of countries, but we all have a unified goal. We're all wearing the same uniform. We're all brothers in that, right? So it's like, in that same sense, if one of your brothers is being punished unjustly, discriminated against or anything, you go to bat for them. You link arms just like you would on the field. That's what we do.
Awesome. Niko or George, do you guys want to add on what you think folks should do? I think that's a great question from Kirsten. As young folks figure out, how do they deal with these situations?
You just gotta put yourself in, someone else's shoes. Try to empathize with them, what they're going through every day. It doesn't have to just be about color. I think that just becomes makes the world a better place when you can see what someone's going through or try to see it their way.
Well said, Niko. Like, just because it's not the way we're used to seeing things, normal, especially in the game of baseball, where it's traditionally a white, there are very few minorities or African Americans in the sport of baseball. So now we have a kid that's got braids or he grows his hair out, and we look at him differently. We just need to put yourself in his shoes and treat him for who he is. To get to be treated equally, I guess, is the direction I want to go with that. I talk sometimes about understanding Latin players, and as a coach, the faster we can understand our player, the better we can help them. As an American culture, I'm married to a Cuban American, but American culture, the first thing we do to meet somebody, we go out and shake their hand. So we get as far away from that person as we can. Latin culture, you hug, you kiss, and just kind of understanding everybody will help you understand that person and then treating them for who they are.
I love that. You guys are in trouble. Listen, I'm waiting to the off season, but I'm coming for you guys. So just so you know, Rise's curriculum, y'all are killing it. We believe that as addition to the critical conversation, folks need to learn skills. And one of them is empathy, Niko, that you brought up, and the perspective taking. Like, if we don't have that, that's what it's going to require for us all to build those skills. So thank you. Excellent answer. Y'all are making us look like geniuses. To jump to the next question, we talked about, bring it back to Jackie Robinson. We talked about him as a leader on the field, a leader, have an impact on others. He was also really clearly, right, like this advocate for racial equity inside of baseball and external to baseball. We've got a question for Niko and Matthew from Brandy, who is also a senior at Cass Tech.
Hi, my name is Brandy Seaborn, and I attend Cass Technical High School. I am 17 years old. What are some ways you have used your platform as professional athletes to speak out on social justice issues, and how have the events of the past year impacted the way you see your role as an athlete to help create change?
So social media is huge. It opens up so many doors for people that, you can make an impact just through that. And I think that you're supposed to use your platform. If you don't, then you're just entertainment at the end of the day, especially what we're doing. People come to the game and they see us at the stadium, and it's just for entertainment, But, you got to strive to be more than just entertainment. You got to try to impact someone's life some way every day. If it's just them seeing you because you signed the ball, the change that can make in someone's life, it's not just about the ball. It's the point that you took time out and acknowledge them and that you saw them. And then that can go a long way in changing the world just for that person. And that person can do something for someone else. And then it's just along those lines. And so, and to answer the second part, as far as this past year, it's opened a lot of people's eyes to what's going on in this country. And it's gave a lot of people more encouragement, confidence to say how they really feel and not hold those feelings back. And, like we said earlier, just being able to let someone see the things you go through daily or that you've gone through in your life.
Yeah. Totally. Kind of piggyback what Niko said. The same thing. We have opportunities. Today's athlete is more vocal, is more what's the right word, out there than any other kind of generation, right? You have social media. You have every game's on TV now. Like in the 90s growing up, not every game was even on TV, but every game's on TV. You can and like everyone talks about a brand or whatnot, but anything that you do goes with you, right? So whether it's what you're wearing on cleats or what you wear on social media, that comes with you when you step in the batter's box to step on the mound. And it's like using the attention that you do get for good, not for selfishness, not for, personal gain, but using it for the better of really, us as a culture and a society, trying to build it and bring people together, bring awareness and bring unity. I kind of going back to that same answer I said earlier, but like we got to approach social injustices the same way, the same mindset that we do like as a baseball team, right? I mean, we got to go at it full tilt. I mean, like I said, we got guys from America, Curacao, Dominican, Venezuela, Colombia. I'm probably leaving some guys out too, and then you got cultures within that, I'm from Seattle. We got guys from California, from Georgia. It's all different within that, but we got to attack social injustices with the same mindset that when we put on that uniform, we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. We're all fighting for each other and knowing our role in that. And we got to do that the same way, as a culture, as we do on the field.
Excellent. I'm serious. Okay, I might not even wait till the off season, right? Because this is again the stuff that we're working with young people and adults on. So thank you. And this is also, Matthew, you kind of articulated why Rise comes at this through sports. We're approached all the time about why do we take the sports angle, and part of it is we just believe this community has already had to figure out how to overcome and actually make differences a plus to achieve, right? And so we just believe, therefore, in this space, there is that mindset. If we could apply it, right? That same mindset, like you said, that same skills that you guys have to use all the time just to win, if we could apply it to, our overall interaction as a country, we would win. So thank you for that. George, you have, I think, a fascinating story. And I was wondering if you would share it about your mother, who is a civil rights activist. And to give a little background, we did a great session, community conversation like this one last year, where Trey Flowers from the Lions, shared about his family and how involved they were in Selma and the marches. And it really resonated just with fans at large, and also, the high schoolers and the collegiate athletes that we work with. And so I wondered if you would share a bit about your mother's experience and how that has impacted some of your thinking and some of your choices.
My mom had this calling when she got to school. She went to Smith and had two teachers that impacted her life to go down and make a difference. And this was in the 60s. She was 21, 22, 23 years old, where she got in that car and went down to Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia and fought, and she was in the thick of it. So she was, good friends with John Lewis and Andrew Young. When my mom passed away, he was the one that delivered the service at our house. So marched along Dr. King. But I just think of it's just become so relevant now. And I started talking about it, and it's just the timing's been unbelievable. But the amount of lives that she impacted and continues to impact. And I was asked the question, do you know why you need to share your story? And he goes, your mom was white. So like everyone can't relate to what I've been through and what Niko's been through and what you've been through. But there's a ton of white people that want to make a difference, and I'm trying to understand. And here's this woman that got right in the middle of it, arrested 7 to 10 times, and that's the way she lived her life. And so it's an incredible story. If I'd love to talk more about it, but I lost my mom at the age of 10 from a car accident. So I've learned so many new stories about her and the people that she hung out with, and For me growing up, it was normal. I hung out with a whole bunch of biracial kids, and it was that's just was kumbaya at our house and doing cookouts and stuff. And but she was an artist, so she had a bunch of women's rights and equality posters that people marched with and stuff. So it's a great memory of her, and I try and share her story as much as I can.
Thank you for that. And, I think her story shows so much about, not only being a great mother, but also being a great citizen and being civically engaged, and as we look back at 2020, guys, we talk about in some places, we're experiencing the backlash to 2020. Rise was super excited. We had about 90 civic engagement events. We pride ourselves on being bipartisan or nonpartisan. I'm not saying who to vote for. I'm just saying everybody needs to be a part of this democracy. And we feel like we were part of what I think is great success. We had the highest voter turnout in our country's history. That was a win. That was a win for everyone. And yet, right, again, Niko and George are from Georgia. Georgia is one of the first states that has come through with rules to restrict people being able to vote, and specifically to restrict the sports kind of world's involvement. I was so proud of us asking sports organizations to step up and use their arenas and use their stadiums. And they did, and sometimes like at great cost to them, but that's what encouraged, right, this increased voting. And now that's discontinued in Georgia. Lot of you guys came out and like gave food and water for people on lines. That's discontinued in Georgia. And there's a similar right now legislation trying to be pushed through where you guys are in Michigan. And so I would love your thoughts just on civic engagement in light of 2020, in light of where we are in 2021. And any thoughts on this connection between kind of civic engagement and our quest to become this better country when it comes to race and racial justice?
Well, I'll jump in here, Niko. If you're looking for true change, the voices need to be heard. So everyone needs to speak and talk. And if there's anything that my mom really fought for was for voter rights when she went down to Alabama and Mississippi. And there's I haven't been there, but I'm looking for hopefully this winter to go into some of these small towns. And if you bring up my mom's name, they all remember her. But she got hundreds of people registered to vote. And now there's like the mayor of this town that knew my mom at the age of 18 and helped him get registered to vote. And that's how you make change and impacting these lives. So, I have a lot of friends I've seen on social media that are frustrated with having this All-Star game moved. But if we really think of it with an open mind, and it's being done for a good cause, and to have this true democracy where all the voices can be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the power we have as athletes. There's power in numbers, like Boyd said earlier, and we need to use our platform to be able to speak with the people that can't really get their voice out there, and that's part of it. The voting, I know a lot of people that think that their voice doesn't matter or they can't make a difference when it's the exact opposite. You just have to change the mindset of the country and the world, and know that you can make a difference, and that's the first step is getting out there and using your right to vote. Like George said, the move of the All-Star game, people don't really see the importance of it, what it stands for, and the power that us as players have. And when they ask, how do you feel about it? You give your honest opinion about it, and it feels good to know that MLB is behind that, and they understand what's going on in the world, and what us as players, we're human beings before we're players. We get up every day the same way everyone else does. We just have a different job. And so the things that we feel, it's good if, know that they actually matter.
Thank you guys for that. Matt, I'm coming for you. So Get ready.
Yeah.
We are, right, because folks thank you guys for bringing up MLB's decision to move the All-Star game when I took this role, I was impressed with, I got a chance to work with Paul Tagliabue every day. And to age myself, for me, Paul Tagliabue was like just this name. He was the commissioner of the NFL. And I first realized what that even meant when they decided not to have the Super Bowl in Arizona, because Arizona would not acknowledge Martin Luther King's Day's holiday, right, in the 1990s. And so truly, right, like these decisions that organizations can make, can have wide-ranging impact. And I think folks get that. They get what leaders of whole leagues can do. They understand the power of the professional athlete. But we had this great question, and it's our final question from Ria, who's a freshman at Rochester Adams.
I'm 14 years old, and my question is, what would you want future leaders to learn and understand from Jackie Robinson's legacy? What can young people do to advance racial equity and social justice in their own communities?
I think it's not going to be a one size fits all, right? Everyone, regardless, we all have different impacts. We all have different communities and people that we're a part of. So it's going to look different. I think the first thing is educating yourself and educating on ways that we can grow. Acknowledging that, and then like something is awesome. And not the Jackie Robinson days here, right? Acknowledging that, wow, there are injustices still present today, and there's a long way to go. We've come a long way, but there's still in acknowledging what Jackie did, but still realizing that, man, there's a long way to go, and we all can have our part in it. But realizing where that part is, understanding it, opening up your eyes to it, and saying, okay, calling it out when you see it, having conversations with people. A lot of this comes from when injustices or when people have an opinion that's not right. That is discriminatory. Not meaning it with judgment, but talking to them, understanding, right? Judgment, meeting it with other judgment's not going to grow anything, but going to them and saying, hey, and having conversations that are tough to have, and understanding why people feel that way, and then doing what you can to through education, talking it through and whatnot. And it's going to look different, right? It's going to look different regardless of wherever you're at. But in those situations, being present and being courageous in them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Niko or George, what can, a young person saying, what can their role be in racial equity?
Let me go.
Go ahead,
What's up,
Niko.
you, George?
Oh.
Okay. I kind of like piggyback on what George and Matt said, where George's mom was a painter, and then Matt said there's different ways to do it. And so I'll just tie those together where I remember growing up, we would travel. My dad was my dad still works at the airport, so we flew for free. And so we'll go to different states, different cities, and I will always see paintings like murals, and I would ask him about it. And so and through that, I learned different things of the country, of my race, what this state or what this city has been through, the struggle, the pain, just off of a painter. And so there's different ways you can impact and teach people. Like Boyd said, we got to first educate. So just off of a painter that may think that he has no influence or no power or he may think this is like, no, you changed. I saw things growing up that I learned from, and the things going on in 2020, you were seeing more murals go up, and people can look and see like, okay, someone's son asked their dad, what happened? And then from there, they can get an interest in knowing and learning what's going on, and then you can just build on that.
Beautiful. Thank you. George?
That's great. I mean, education is absolutely huge, and I need to be more educated. And I think the more I can do that, the more I can impact others. But listening, I think listening is extremely important. Like be able to hear, like some of the things that we've been complaining about for years with for years and years, and they're finally being heard. And like, why didn't you say this? No, people have been saying this for a long time, but people are finally hearing them. So I think you have to be able to listen and hear these arguments and these issues to really open up your heart, your mind, and finding ways to do it. And then whether it's just, us working with one little kid, I mean, it's this younger generation that's the future of our world. So these are the people we're trying to impact. I'm doing a lot of this stuff for my kids and the kids that my two boys grew up with. But I mean, it can be as easy as simple as working with this kid, educating this one kid, or to being a full-on activist and getting out there and using your platform. But I do know that, including myself, we can all do a better job.
Well, I thank you all for this. I thank you for the time. I know you're in season. Rise is rooting for you. I want to end by saying, we always are inviting folks to have these critical conversations. It doesn't have to be recorded, but this is one of the ways that we can make an impact. We also run quite a few programs, multi-week programs in Southeast Michigan. So I always invite any part of the organization. Last football season, young man Justin Simmons at the Broncos went to one, and then we turned around and like all the kids in the program feel like Justin is their best friend. He went to every single session after that. They kind of put together a march in a neighborhood. He did that with them. And so the power to just empower our young people and to really make a change is there. So I always invite everyone to be a part of Rise's programming. I think the young people, the reality is Generation Z and millennials make up more than a third of our kind of future and our voting population already, so our present. So I thank the students for being a part of this. And I really couldn't be more appreciative to the entire kind of Tigers organization. George, Niko, Matthew, thank you guys for making the time. And with that, we can sign off. Thanks.
Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.